All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So excited to start these back up. If you've been around for a little bit, you have probably seen these before and you probably just saw my face. And you're probably a little tired of that. So, welcome back to the 5 o'clock wind downs. This is Bri Stewart. I am your host for these, and I have got a very, very special co host today that is helping me bring these back. And it is Katie Churchill. So we're so excited to
Hello.
have her. And oh my gosh, so there's so much that's happened since I've made these videos, like a lot. But one in particular was really big for me, and I know it seems to be something that everyone is kind of going through, or has recently gone through, or maybe thinking of going through, which is career transitions and what does that look like? And I could not think of a better person to talk about this, which is the literal goat of senior living recruiting. And so, Katie, I want you to just briefly kind of tell everybody who you are. They probably already know you, but still, just kind of introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thank you, Bree, for having me. I am excited to talk to you, obviously, because I love talking to you so much, but also about career transitions. So, I am Katie Churchill. I am the Director of Talent Management for WellPoint, which is a boutique affordable senior living operator in California.
I
And that is
love
me.
it. And just to kind of give some backstory, how do I know Katie? How do we know one another? It probably started over wine, which is so beautiful as we do this
Yeah.
virtually today. We actually met in person at a Women in Leadership in Dallas. It's been
Yes.
over a year now, which is crazy. And yeah, we've always kept in touch. She's my Pacific Coast BFF. So, without further ado, we need to go ahead and pour ourselves a wine before we get started. I've already
Yes.
started a little bit, so I'm going to pour some more and make
Mine's
sure
all the
I've
way downstairs, so I'll just keep mine here.
perfect. Well, you filled it up to a good line. You didn't, I
I
never
did.
follow the whole stop at the curvature. I like to keep it going up to
That's
the
a
top.
rule.
Apparently, that's
No.
that's what they,
I'm
that's like
glad.
when you go to a nice restaurant, they always like I'm like, God, like are they almost out of wine? I feel like they didn't pour me enough. Oh no, this is the classy way to do this. So
Yes.
whoops.
That's not the at-home way.
Not the at-home way. Well, I actually, so side note, and I'm just gonna give all my secrets out. I normally will have a box of wine. Don't judge it. It's like more, it's what is it, 4 bottles in one? And I find that very efficient. But
Very
today I
cost
was like, for
effective.
this, you know what, let's bring out the bottle so we can be a little classier. But normally it's Boda box up in here. So
I love
all
it.
right. So before we get started, obviously January, I think, is the kind of marked as the time for everybody to start with all the new things. You know, this year I'm going to do this, but as we all know that senior living and changing careers doesn't always happen in January. It can happen at any time. And I think it starts with a feeling. There tends to be something within us that we kind of get the bug of, hey, is this it? Am I fulfilled? All the questions. And so I think it starts there. And before we kind of jump into all of that, I think I'd like to mention that Katie and I both have, we're not just telling you this because we want to, give you some knowledge that we haven't been living. We both have done that recently, like super recently. And so we're speaking from experience on this of going through new career chapters and what that looks like. So it's not theory, it's a lived experience for us. And, it's complicated. I think navigating that, especially when you've been in places for quite some time, especially in this space that's so
Yeah.
relationship built. So I have to say it because it's so good. We're going to spill the talent tea, but we're not going to spill the wine tonight.
Yeah, no, I cannot spill the wine, but we
It
can
was
spill the
too
tea.
perfect. I had to play off of that the moment I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have so much fun with this segment with her because of the spill the talent tea.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm glad that I did that newsletter because I missed it. It had been probably 4 or 5 months since I put any content out. And so when you called me about this, I was like, oh, heck yes.
oh, it's so good. And we actually realized that we've got too much to talk about. So we're probably gonna break this up
Yes.
into 2 segments. But before we get into it, let's do something, an icebreaker. So what's in your glass tonight, Katie? And does it match your current career season?
When I saw this question, I was really excited for you to ask it because I purposely went and got a bottle of Stag's Leap Cabernet.
Yes.
And the Stag's Leap, it was like for me a little play on like I took the leap to leave and
That's so
transition,
good.
right? So yes, I got a little creative there. I still got my marketing, background.
Gonna say, okay, I didn't go as far as the brand, and I'm like trying to think on my feet. So I did Decoy Cabernet.
We love a
There's a
good decoy.
duck. I don't know what to say about a duck for my career transition.
Well, sometimes maybe you feel like a decoy in your position, and then
Ooh,
you need to go and take the stag leap.
all right. This girl, this branding, this marketing brain right now. I was saying
Gotta
Cabernet,
love it.
and here's mine. So I always drink Cabernet, but I really thought about it really fits perfectly with this season for me. So I just started my own consulting company, which is insane. Something I've always wanted to do. It's a bold move, which I
Hmm.
like a bold Cabernet, and you can't rush it. I think that's something you've got to savor every moment, and it gets better over time.
Love
And
it.
that's how I looked at this. Of that's so perfect for Cabernet and for what I'm going through. So
Well, cheers.
cheers. All right, our first official sip.
Hmm.
Okay,
Official sip.
official. So, knowing we're both in new chapters right now, so you
Yes.
recently have started at WellPoint, and you said in your most recent post that the most meaningful transitions start quietly, not loudly.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you?
I think it's with anybody when you're in a position or in, your, I guess, role that you're in, whether it's been a few months, years, decades, or whatever, there's these little quiet moments that kind of build up. And for me, it was both personal, like on a personal level, I needed to make a transition, but then also professionally, the more I spent time with clients and specifically WellPoint, I was like, I want to be back in an operator
Yeah.
position, like with an operator. And it had been years for me since I had been with an actual senior living operator and not as a vendor to the industry. So I feel like, personally, there was a lot of little moments that led to this, but also professionally, it was a lot of conversations between me and actually Max and Gaston at Full Spectrum and kind of what I wanted in life and all of that. They were always very supportive. So I was very
Yeah,
lucky. Yeah.
that's amazing, and I know that group
Hmm.
very well. They're all fantastic. And
They
after
are.
nearly 5 years at Full Spectrum, what do you think
Yep.
began to shift internally for you?
Again, I think just for me, it was more of a personal desire to grow within an operator and actually more directly touch the lives of residents rather than, I was so far removed. We'd make a placement and it's like, yeah, I'd check in, 90 days, a year, 6 months, whatever, with that person. But now I'm actually seeing the people that I've placed here in the company, what they are directly doing and how they are directly contributing. And so those moments for me are just speaking way louder, I would say. And with Full Spectrum Search Group, like incredible people, love them to death, but I needed to be back in with the residents.
I get it completely. That
Yeah.
hits home for me. It's so real. I think I climbed the corporate ladder and I
Hmm.
started telling people what to do. And I guess I got really nervous of I'm forgetting what to do because I haven't been living it anymore. And
True.
it was almost like a credibility piece for me of like, how can I tell these people, how they should do their roles and, be that leader for them. And I just had this really big moment of gosh, I kind of missed being closer to the work and closer to the residents. I mean, that's the biggest
Yeah.
piece to it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, to kind of go back into, that moment of when you realize you need to make a change. And
Hmm.
I think we always tie it between, success. And you talk a little bit about this in your post about the difference between being successful and being aligned. And I thought that was a really big piece for us to touch on because I feel that. What does success look like? Right? Like I think a lot of us think it's climbing the ladder. It's hey, I'm getting to the next step. I'm growing up the chain, so to speak. And is that really success all the time, or do we want to be more aligned personally and professionally? So if you want to expand on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've talked to a lot of, RDOs or, regional VPs of ops, whatever. This was, back in my day with full spectrum. And what's interesting is that, those individuals, right, they are climbing the ladder, right? They've got this career ladder, their growth is going up, but they don't feel aligned with what's happening up top. And they don't feel like the culture is matching what they want to do. And so a lot of times these people would go backwards in their career to an executive director or some other type of position in order to feel aligned with the mission or the vision or whatever they feel right for themselves. And I think that while, yes, we all, you know, want to chase that title, and let's be real, we all need money to survive and
I like
live
money.
in
I
this
need it.
earth.
Yes.
Yes. And so of course, as your title gets higher, your salary gets higher, right? I mean, it makes sense. However, but if you look internally at yourself of what you want out of life and isn't matching with your own mission, vision, and values. And I think that that's really critical for someone to help recognize in themselves that it's okay to take a step back in order to take 10 steps forward,
Well said.
in my opinion.
I think you're spot on. I spoke with a good friend of mine who's going through, you should just apply for Social Security. She's Medicare. She's 65. She's one of my favorite people in the world. And I was kind of talking with her about my experience and, God, Bri, you've been in the C-suite and all of this, and that's fantastic for some people. I mean, that's incredible. But when I told her about the alignment piece and how I still was not feeling fulfilled and I've always wanted to do this thing, she stopped me and she goes, I'm so glad you figured this out at your age now because some take decades more to realize that. And then they've run out of time and they really wish they could have gone back to align
Mhm.
themselves and do what does that success look like for them? It doesn't always mean that because if you're not aligned, you're not happy up there. And
Yeah.
I've experienced that. So I think you're spot on.
Mhm.
I always talk about this in sales. So how do I tie this in? Since this is a sales and marketing sort of video podcast type deal, we always talk about readiness before action in senior living, especially. And a prospect can look perfect on paper, but if they're not emotionally ready, the deal doesn't close well, and neither does a career move. And so I think it's really
Mhm.
important to balance that of making sure, even asking yourself if you're watching this video right now, what does ready look like for you? If you
Yeah.
are having that gut feeling of what would that look like for you to make that decision? I know for me, I had to stop performing success and start listening to alignment, and that was the real shift for me.
Yeah. And I think also too, when it comes to being emotionally ready for that type of jump, to leave a role for something else or leave a role for potentially nothing, lined up,
Hi. Yeah, that was, I
um,
mean, it was nothing until I did something, right?
not to
Yeah.
call you out. I'm just kidding.
Call me out, girl. I need to keep drinking.
But I think that, emotionally, it will always be hard to leave the something that you're familiar with and comfortable with, right? But there is a reason why you were snooping on Indeed or LinkedIn. There's a reason why you entertained that call with whatever recruiter. There's a reason why. And you talking to a recruiter or whoever it might be, your family, your friends, and understanding why you even want to make that shift and then listening to it. And then also too, don't just jump into any next opportunity. Like really take your time to make sure it is something that aligns with you emotionally before you really make yourself completely available to that group. Because you never know, that sometimes people could be, blowing smoke and saying we're so excellent and look at all the things we do. And then you go in and you're like, whoa, this is a hot mess express. What was I thinking?
I've lived that. Yeah.
Sometimes
I
the
mean,
grass is not always greener.
the grass is not always greener. And you hit on something so big that I'm going off script here, which I figured we would at some point. But I sit here
Duh.
and think about all the times that I've interviewed people and also vice versa,
Mhm.
been interviewed. And when they get to the point of what questions do you have for me? The person
You better have
typically
questions.
yeah, you better have questions and you better have looked on their website. I mean, I know this seems simplistic,
Mhm.
but so many people still don't do it because I've interviewed people and I'm like, you don't have one question for me and you just know that you want this job?
Yeah.
That gives me pause whenever I'm interviewing somebody. And so for me, I've learned through the years, make sure you understand what's their mission statement, what's their philosophy, peruse around what they've got online. Ask the hard questions to make sure this aligns. And one, it builds more credibility and integrity with you of like you've done your
Hmm.
homework. What are
Yeah.
some topics there that you always like people to ask whenever you learn about this in the interview process?
When I ask like, oh, so what questions do you have for me? If they immediately ask about the salary, I am very turned off. Like
Yeah.
it's posted, it's there, you applied for it, it's California, we have to post it. So it's like, when you ask me that question, it tells me that you're not as like, I guess, invested in the organization, the mission, right? If I'm
Mhm.
having to explain our entire company to you because you haven't done the research, then it's also a problem for me.
Yeah.
And I understand everybody is so busy and we've all got so many things to do, but the reality is that at least for me, I want to hire people that want to join the mission, the vision, and the values that we have as an organization and already know what those are, but then also ask questions about them. Specifically, right? Like, well, how did you guys create that mom system for the medication management? Like that would be, I would be like, oh, you're hired, because
That
then it's
right
like
there.
you saw the press release or you saw the article, you did some kind of research. But I also think too, nearing towards the end of the interview, I really love when a candidate says, what's the next step for me? Because then
CTA. There,
I
yeah.
already know like they're interested, and I could quickly book them, for the next step. But they're like, hey, thanks, bye. I'm like, okay, they didn't really like me that much, and that's okay.
Gosh, I mean, it's the same in what we do in senior living sales or
It's
any emotionally driven sales process. It's don't you ever get
100%.
off that phone or Zoom call or Teams, whatever it is, without a mutually agreed upon next step.
Yeah.
And
And when you even made the comment about readiness before action, it is, I've always said this that senior living sales and marketing, like the whole tour process, move in process, it all literally translates to recruiting and onboarding.
yep,
If you have a terrible first 30 days for a resident and you also have a terrible first 30 days for a new employee, do you think either are going to last? Like,
no,
no, right? And so I loved when you said that because in my opinion, at least, I know it's different because it's a resident moving in versus an employee, but it's still the same experience where it should be red carpet of from the moment of the recruiting call to the
that.
hire date to the 6 months from now. It should
And,
all be the
and I
same.
have heard horror stories about this, especially in the recruiting world right now. And to
I'm
me, it
sure.
defies logic but it's happening. And I understand some of these roles that are posted, like I even saw it on LinkedIn. Some of these roles like are having 400 applicants apply for them. I'm not expecting a personalized phone call from somebody if I were to apply for that. But what is their process internally to make sure at least it's an automatic thanks but no thanks type deal? I feel like there's so many that people they just are they never hear back. They don't ever know where they are in that process. And I know you're really good at this. Like there's amazing
Mhm.
people that know how to close loops or whatever that looks like, but there's so much in recruiting that don't. And it's
Yeah.
scary. And I think AI is
Yeah.
a big part of it too. I mean, I could go down that path, but
Well, and I think too, when you go to apply for a position, like the 400 applicants, I totally get that. We posted a role and within 48 hours, over 500 people applied and my inbox was insane. I had to shut it down, like be done kind of
yeah.
deal. Like I was
Like
like,
there's got to
there's
be one in here
somebody
that
in
works,
there. Yeah.
right?
There's
Yeah.
somebody. Praise. But you know, our system, luckily, we use Bamboo HR. Our system does do automatic emails of like, we hope to get back in touch with you. If we don't, and it's from me, right? And so if for some reason they don't hear back, they can get in touch with me. I'm not perfect. I do miss it sometimes where I don't
What do
respond to
you
somebody
mean,
right
Katie?
away
Yes, you
or
are. You're
whatever,
perfect.
I wish. But, there are those times where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't call that person or I didn't follow up with that person. And it happens, right? And so I would say from the candidate end, um, have patience with those talent acquisition people, but
Yes.
also too, if you don't hear back from somebody right away, like it doesn't mean no. I would just get more creative and find out who the hiring manager is and, send them the message and send them the resume, them the cover letter, whatever it might be, try to get on their radar. Um, that would be my suggestion. Unfortunately, though, like it is really hard, especially the 400 applicants. And most of those are
Yeah,
probably
well, because
bots.
LinkedIn, you can see it now of how many people like have clicked apply, and you're like, oh my
Yeah,
God, like this is just
scary.
insane.
Yeah.
And so again, I think it's absolutely giving patience and grace, but to your point, getting creative, a lot like we do in senior living sales of, hey, like how do I stand out amongst everybody? How do I be more intentional about my reach out to build that
Mhm.
relationship? I think reaching out, like doing some digging, and it's all going to be relationship based of your network. You're never,
Absolutely.
to me, especially for roles that are going to be, let's say, directors of sales, regionals, and beyond. I think it's really never going to be you applying for a job on Indeed or LinkedIn. I mean, maybe that happens, but I think it's very rare. It's got to be somebody that you know that knows somebody that can speak of you. So it's word of mouth, and that can never be replaced by Chat GPT. Sorry. So,
It's actually very true. And I'm glad that you said
yep,
that.
I know, and I
There's
know
the
that
human
if
element.
totally.
Mhm.
But yeah, so okay, to stay on time here. So movement
Mhm.
versus tenure. I want you to spill the tea on
Mm.
this. So, from your seat in recruiting, what gives you more pause? Someone who's moved around a lot or someone who's been somewhere a very long time?
Mm. I'm a big advocate of not allowing the resume to speak for the candidate. Um, because while yes, you're at the same operator for 20 years and you're stuck in your ways, or that's the way they've always done it kind of thing. That's what so many people say. I don't
Yeah.
believe that. For everybody at least. I don't believe that because there's a reason why they're looking to make a transition, and it's probably because maybe they're not heard. Maybe their ideas aren't valued. Um, whatever it might be. And then on the flip side, we have so many different communities that move from company to company to company. And I've seen this a lot with resumes, especially in senior living, where these communities kind of get changed around between ownership and management companies. And that's not their fault on their resume. So for you, whoever's listening to this, if you are one of those people, in your resume, just put that the community was transitioned from company A to
Yeah.
company B. But the other piece too is that if there is a resume where it's like every 9 months or every 6 months they're moving, but they're showing KPIs that are strong, I get curious because then why did you leave? And so for me, it would be I'd want to call and just kind of get to know and understand as much as possible. But for me, neither of them give me very much pause. I think if you're moving every 6 months, then that's probably a little bit more pause than anything else. But so maybe don't do that.
That's more of a red flag.
If I were
But
to,
yeah, I
yeah,
think to your point,
but
there's
it's
so
not
much
like
more to
as
this
red. It's
story.
like pink. It's like a pink flag. I don't know what's in between red and green. Beige.
Yes, I
No.
don't know. I don't know my colors. I don't know. I don't know. Sure.
It's like
Beige.
a rosé. It's like a rosé.
It's okay. It's staying on brand. We love this. It's like a rose.
It's like a rosé.
I think you're spot on though. Like to me, when I've looked at applicants in various roles I've been in, I, I actually have more pause. Hear me out. And I'm not saying this is true for everybody. I have more pause of somebody that's been in one place for like the entirety of their career. And here's
But no
why.
promotions. No
With
promotions.
no promotions or very like
Mm,
lateral moves, like it's not anything like where you're seeing growth. To me, that almost feels like, hey, like are you gritty enough? Like are you pushing of what that looks like for you? Are you happy with where you are? Like what's the story there? And I'm sure they could probably give me more context, but
yep.
sometimes that might give me more pause versus the person that every time maybe they've jumped every 2 years, but every time they've gotten a higher role or they've taken on more responsibilities. Well, that tells me you're taking control of your
Yeah.
career is how I look at that. So that's how I've always
Yeah.
seen it. So
I will devil's advocate or whatever that saying is,
Yep.
on the person who maybe was there for 20 years but never got a promotion or anything. What if they became a parent and they
Yeah.
couldn't go into a traveling role?
Yeah. I
Mm,
think there's a way
see,
you could weave that
that's why you got
into,
to
I
ask the
would like weave it
questions.
into your like, your profile or your resume is how I feel like explain like, I
Yeah.
think you could do some of that, but no, again, I think there's so much more context to all of it.
Hmm.
And you can't just take it by a resume by face value. If they've got some
Can't
qualities,
judge a book
call
by
them,
its cover.
call them, just call them.
Yeah,
They
call
would
them.
love to speak with you and you can get more.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a reason they applied. Trust me.
that right there. I know we are coming close to time, which is crazy. So for me, I always think about this again with my sales and marketing hat. When you leave a job, it's almost because we create the brand, we create the identity, right? Because
Hmm.
if you're at a community level or if you're in a regional or corporate role, you become the face of that. And so it can get really difficult to leave because you feel like there's loyalty to that brand. And that's something that I know is how a transition can be challenging for people because it can feel personal. I know that
Yeah.
I felt that many of times. I'm sure you have in some ways. You're like you feel like you're
Mhm.
doing something wrong, and you have to remind yourself you're doing this for me. Like
Yeah.
I matter. So
Yeah. I would
mm,
agree with you on that. And I think that too, um, depending upon how you leave, right? Like I
yeah,
know you and I both left our situations like very amicable and fine, like
don't
it
burn a
was,
bridge. Don't do
yeah. And
it.
it was
Yeah.
like, you go do you, be you, go be successful kind of thing. But it is really hard though, when you don't leave on a good terms, it can really, impact your personal brand. There's the company brand and then there's the personal brand. And I think that they shouldn't be intertwined as much, but it's hard not to though. When it
It's
says on
hard.
LinkedIn, here's who I work for.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned over time from a marketing and brand perspective is you can celebrate your company on your LinkedIn as you should.
Yeah.
But also, what are the things that bring you joy that make you different and the unique identifiers of you that are outside of that company? Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it could be the best organization in the world, but things happen. And so, what are
Hmm.
you going to do? Are people going to remember you for something else other than that company? Hey, if anybody remembers me for the person that just drinks the wine on YouTube, I'll take that. That means that there's a brand identity there, though, right? So I think people need to remember, like, what's that thing I'm passionate about that I want to talk about that has nothing to do with my company?
Sipping and yapping.
Sipping and yapping. I am great at that. We need to put that on our resumes. So I want to end it. I had so much fun with this, and we've got so much more to talk about in our next
Yeah.
agenda. But since we're drinking Cabernet, staying too long or moving too fast can both flatten the flavor, and timing matters.
Oh, I like that.
It's deep, right? I know. I was really
Chef's
excited about
kiss.
that one. So we're
Did
gonna
you make that
pause
up?
here. We're gonna let it breathe. Ooh, drum roll, please. Thank you.
You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. And when we come back in a couple of weeks with Katie, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk about preparing for transitions before day one and what
Mhm.
really matters in the first 90 days.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. Well,
All
thank you for
right.
having me, and I'll
Thanks,
see y'all in a
guys.
couple
Well,
weeks.
cheers. And I will talk
Cheers.
to you very soon.